Hey, starting pretty much right on time for once. Sometimes I'm like a minute fast, sometimes I'm a couple minutes slow. We're getting a pretty good start tonight. Welcome, campaigners. This is Campaign Terrain. I am your host, that guy Cross. Welcome to my basement. And tonight we're going to be continuing the house we started last week. I have done literally nothing on it since last week, as I told you, because we're going to build this in stages. So tonight is all about the windows. Next time, it'll probably be both the stonework around the outside edge and the roof. Depending on how the windows go tonight, I might get to the stonework. I'm not doing the roof until at least next week, because that's a little more complicated. I have a little checklist of things we're doing. So, welcome, and let's get into it. So, this week, on my Discord, in my supporters only area, I posted some pictures of the windows in progress. So, I will be posting those for the rest of the Discord like later tonight or tomorrow morning. Right now, I have a couple of things that are in my way. I'm going to take care of that really quick, but I'll show you that in the meantime. And then we will jump into various ways of making windows. I've got at least 5 ways. I think that's what I said last week was windows 5 ways. I may have a 6th that I'm not remembering. So let's get started. First, a little bit of housekeeping. I'm redoing the way I flash my patrons up on the screen and stuff like that, so I'm working on a new graphic for that, but let me go ahead and cover my patrons. I've got Lisa, that's Dungeon Matron. She's got her own Discord. That's her. She doesn't really have like a YouTube or anything. But a lot of us crafters go and hang out there. She has also helped me with things like this microphone you can hear me on, and I'm pointing at my head because it's attached to my glasses. Other things like that. She's been very helpful. Love it. Love hanging out on her Discord. She has chats various times. I can't remember exactly which ones off the top of my head, but they're Wednesdays and Saturdays at various times of where we just get together and hang out and chat. Usually we have a camera on and somebody's crafting, even if not everybody is. Sometimes people are just talking. So that's Lisa. That's Dungeon Matron. I also have Patrick Walther. Patrick Walther has a YouTube channel, but still hasn't gotten back to me. So I don't know if I'm supposed to tell people. Anyway, so Patrick Walther's been a long-time supporter of the channel. So great to still have his continued support. Then I also have Digital Calibrator. Digital Calibrator lives close to me, comes over and helps me with things sometimes. So that's why the lighting has gotten better and some of the audio sound as well. That's it for now. As far as Patreon patrons go, you can be the next one. Happy to do that. Links in the down below. Don't have to, no pressure. I'm going to keep doing this free if you don't, but I could certainly use the help. Still working on the role-playing game. That's had a whole big transition of 2 kinds lately, so that's not had a setback. It's more of a shift, which is fine. I'm still coming along on it, so that's good. Like thinking about it all the time. Like it keeps me awake at night. I'm working on it. And what's the other thing? There was one other thing. Oh, I will be having a shop where I sell stuff like some of the pre-made stuff I got, but I haven't gotten to that yet. So just expect that in the future. This week I did get to the $1.25 tree, which from what I hear is going to be the $1.75 tree or maybe the $1.50 tree soon. And that was even before certain other things happened in the news. We'll leave it at that. So Dollar Tree's having to go up because the economy, I don't blame that. If it becomes the $2 store, I will still go to $2 tree. It's still going to be less expensive than anywhere else. So I got a bunch more ice cream sticks. Not really using those for this build. I did also find a few more of my larger coffee stirrers. So I've got a few of those. Those will probably get used in a couple of the things tonight. I still have the smaller ones that the housemate gave me, which are useful for many things. And I think that's it. I sound like I'm super hyper caffeinated, but I'm not. I've only had like this much tea. I brought it down here in this glass. It's still too hot to drink. So maybe I'll actually be having some tea on this. Usually I only take like 1 sip during the whole thing. So let's jump into it. Let's see. Anybody we got here? We got at least one watching and nobody said anything yet. That is okay. I presume you can hear me because I can see the little indicator going blinky blinky. Let's switch to this camera, which is now on my shoulder, but we will move that over. And I got this on a new mount, so it should wiggle less or not at all while I'm crafting because it's no longer attached to the craft thing. Some people like the behind the scenes things. Let me switch back for just a second. You can't see it from here, but on my workbench, I've got these pieces that come up. If you watch my workbench build, you'll see it. There's 2 videos for that. You'll see it. So the top part comes across like this. It's got various slats and tubes and things where I clamp things to it. It's why these lights are up here and things like that. But above me, I have a magnet strip on each side. And that is why you always see me take things like my scissors or whatever and go, and they stay, because I have a magnet strip up there. Okay, I think I'm not going to need the scissors, but I think I might need these snippers later, so we'll keep those. I was staining some stuff, so I've got my stain. I've been using all sorts of glue for the making of the windows. You'll see that once I post the photos to the Discord. So I've got lots of glues out here. Yeah, let me go ahead and grab that sip of tea. And then I will switch cameras and we will jump into it. Okay, so one of the things I said I've got to clear out of my way is I have been working on, I took a bunch of my previous laser cut pieces because I found them while I was doing the windows, and I found all of my little squares, which are the insides from window frames. You'll see what I mean in a second. So these I haven't figured out what to do with yet. They may end up being crates, or I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I've also got a bunch of little ones. These are from the window, not frames. These are from the windows themselves. These are where the panes were cut out. So I've got those. Those are literally here just to show you. Let me set those to the side. Now I also have, I did finally find my brass brush during this last week or so. So now I have the brass brush for texturing foam rather than the steel brush. I like the brass one better for the foam. It's sturdy enough to do it, but it's not so bad, not so hard that it'll cut into it so much. But I'm not actually doing foam this week. Let me show you what these were used for. For people that missed it last week, that is for putting the wood texture into foam like this. And that's literally, you just take the brush and drag it along the thing. If you push in, it will shred the thing. So just very lightly touch it on there and just slide it across, and it makes wood grain texture for piers and beams and such. Okay, so we're going to be putting windows. I'll probably put 2 on the front, 1 on the back, and I don't think I'm going to put any on the side. I'm going to leave this just windows front and back. I haven't decided. I might put windows on the side. It's supposed to be a nice-ish house, not like a peasant house or anything, so I may put extra windows. Haven't decided. So, with the little laser pieces, I took a bunch of my circles of lasers, which are here and come in various different sizes. I've got a larger size, a medium size, and a smaller size. Now, these were from a project where I needed all of the holes cut out. These are offcuts. So I've got 3 different sizes, and I found that if I stack them up just right and I glue them together, I get pretty good sizes for barrels. And what I'm going to do is take those, and I tried to keep them proportional. So this one's made, all of these are 3 millimeter thick. So this one's 15 millimeters tall, five levels. The medium-sized one is 4 levels. So 12 millimeter, about a half an inch. And then I've got a smaller one here. Now my scale is 1/48. So this half-inch one is a basically 2-foot tall barrel. So this is like a normal, would be a 55-gallon barrel. But all these are going to have, the blackness is from the laser. I'm going to put some little strips of either the metal stick-on tape, like is used for ductwork, the shiny stuff, not what people think of as duct tape, which is actually duct tape. That's a whole thing. But I'm going to try, or I'm going to take the really thin paper from like laser printer, not laser printer, thermal printer labels, because they're already sticky. So I can just cut those little slits and wrap them around. These will all get painted up to look like various barrels with various strips of stuff around them. So I don't actually have a package to put these in, so I don't know why I'm picking all these up, but I have made a lot of them. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a whole row of them along here in all 3 different sizes. So let me figure out what I'm going to do. Oh, I'm not wearing my hat tonight. We will just literally toss them in the hat. Okay. I will find I have a million empty containers. I will get one later. I just don't have any right here. All right. Hey, Loosely Collected. You said you were coming by. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. All right. So Loosely Collected comes to my Discord and several of the Discords I am on. Doing some really, sorry, picking stuff up. Really nice minis work lately. Painting some minis up. Got a, I don't know if it's Chaos Warrior's not the right name, but a warrior in red armor that's looking really cool, stuff like that. So, come to the Discord, meet Loosely Collected. Okay, so just got my little guy here for scale. We're just gonna set him off to the side. Now, these are from a previous set of builds, and these were for my closed windows, and these were designed to originally have a frame around them, and the frames all looked like this, but all my windows were closed. And so this should, remember, should and need are always in air quotes here. This just about fits inside this. So these are approximately a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. So in scale, this would be a 2 foot by 2 foot window. And as you can see, if you're going for realism, that's a good size for a window. However, let's try that where you can see it in the light. However, on the table, rule of cool wins. And so you probably want a bigger window. So I've got the 2 foot by 2 foot, and most of the ones I built tonight are built on my own old style. So they follow that guideline. But I have switched kind of to the rule of cool, and I have windows like these, which have a frame on them, which I had to glue in. I had to cut the 2 pieces separately and then glue all of these little squares on by hand. So there's a glue line right here, and that's where all those squares in that offcut jar I showed a minute ago are from. So I've got these, but I also have them without the frames on them, so you can just have the window. So you don't have, so you can do it a different way. So these are all, if I remember correctly, exactly 1 inch by 1 inch. Yes. So these would be, in my scale, 4 feet by 4 feet, which means each pane with its little frames out of it, each pane is probably 16, 17 inches by 16, 17 inches in scale in each of these 4. So again, rule of cool, they look fine on when they're put onto the houses. So I've got the laser ones. That I was going to show you all of the laser things, but that's pretty much it. I do have a file for that I made for myself. I can probably toss that up on the Discord if anybody really wants it, but it's super simple, and you can find laser miniature window patterns a million different places. I made these in SVG is the format. I made these in Inkscape, and then to laser cut them, I transported them into Lightburn. So I'm not sponsored by any of these. so just know that I'm just giving you this information just so you know what I worked with. You can do it however you want. So yeah, that's the ones with the frames. This is the ones without the frames. I will probably install some of those into a building soon, but I'm not using them tonight because I've gone through the trouble of making all of these others. All right. Had to drop off daughter. Oh, that's fine. You caught us like 10 minutes in. We're here for the long haul. Hope your daughter's doing well. Old Metal GW Chaos Warrior. Oh, is it? I don't think I recall having seen that one, but I'm not the biggest GW fan per se, but I do like their older stuff better than their new. I love the figure that you've been painting. That's really cool. At first, when he was just red, I was like, I don't know. And then you started to put in some shadowing and you added the chainmail, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see where he's going with it. It looks great. Try to make the windows look like one of my human side dudes can see and fire out an arrow. Yeah, and that matters if you're playing a war game because you got to have a line of sight. So the bigger the window, the better if you're up close to it on the back because it gives you more field of vision. On the front, if you're the guy inside, bigger is worse because it also gives them an easier chance to hit you. But in reality, yeah, line of sight stuff. Let's see. Surgical, hey man, how you doing? Surgical's got a channel and also has patterns and such, doing a lot of 3D print work of terrain. Things like, don't know if I want to mention a specific thing, but space movie with a battle in space, that movie. Those sets of movies and some other things right now. I think he's working on, a thing with you're trying to do something with bricks, but I don't remember exactly what it is. All right. Looking at a used laser on Facebook Marketplace and a good deal. However, even though it's a good deal, I don't have the 300 to throw at it. Is it? Okay. I have a diode laser. I'm going to switch to the other camera for a second while we're doing this just so I can talk to y'all. I have a diode laser. That's the one with where the whole print head moves around on it. It's not the one with the huge laser at the back that then comes through. It's the lasers built in. Mine is kind of underpowered. It was the most powerful one I could find under $200 at the time it came out, and literally within about 5 or 6 weeks, as these things go, they were like 5 or 6 I would have rather had. Mine is 9 watt, but it really only has about 6 watt at the cut head. So the way that its laser works, I can, big air quotes, cut through 16 millimeters. Poorly. Its laser, the way the laser's focused, it fits the lasers, they're focused so that the beam, the light crosses like this, and you want the hottest part where the most light it comes together, culminates, I guess. You want that focal length to be as long as possible. And this one says you can cut 16 millimeters, but I haven't successfully readily cut anything more than about 10. And oops, sorry about my mic. And so I suggest definitely don't get a 10 watt laser, 9 watt laser. Get one of the 20 watts to 40 watts. I think they have 80 watt diodes now. They probably have more. I haven't paid that much attention because I've been laser cutting, but my guess is they probably have even more than that. Now, if you are using I don't remember what they're called, the ones with the big laser piece that fits in the back, and then you'll have no problem cutting this stuff. Every laser is different, so you'll have to run your own heat scale to see where it cuts and where it etches and all of that. And plus, it's different for every material. And not enough places say this. It matters on the humidity in the air. And it definitely matters on whether you have air assist, which blows the smoke away from the laser head. All of that can adjust it. So you want to have it set the way you normally set it to what you expect the ambient humidity to be, and then run one of those test patterns and work from there. But very cool. I'm glad you've been looking at them. You said you got a good deal, but you don't have the money yet. Yeah, that's always the thing. Who has $300 to toss on a light, on essentially a really powerful flashlight? Okay, Surgical's doing good. Excellent, excellent. Star Wars Legion, that's the one. Okay, Star Wars Legion, not Star Wars the movie. Okay, so that's the stuff that Surgical typically has been making 3D terrain for, but is branching out. Chaos Warriors, the old 90s are the newest. Okay, that's very cool. I like the older stuff, especially the really silly stuff, like the dwarfs with the massive freaking mohawks. I mean, I have a mohawk, but mine doesn't stick up like this. I haven't touched lasers yet. I'll go for clear acrylic. Oh yeah, for clear acrylic. Now, clear acrylic's weird because the laser will pass right through it. So you have to have like a layer of paper over it or under it or both to actually, I don't know. It's very strange. I've tried to cut acrylic on my machine and had very little luck. I actually had better luck with a piece of acrylic that was actually really dirty because it utilized the laser more effectively. But I still had really poor luck with mine. But it's because mine's super low powered. Like I said, mine's a 9 watt diode. If you get one of the ones that's like 100 watt, what are the other ones called? Anyway, the big boys. Yeah, you can hack through all that stuff. That was from Surgical, for those of you that aren't seeing the chat. Loosely Collected said, I'll be honest, I think in the long run, I'd rather have a CNC router and cut stuff with bits. I can see that too, but I don't want a CNC for the same reason I don't want a resin 3D printer. I don't really want a 3D printer at all, but if I was to suddenly get one, it would be for literally stuff like the windows, and I would use FDM, but I don't want the resin for smell, the odor, the whole rack of other chemicals you have to have. You have to have the curing rack and dry. And I kind of see the CNC router the same way. You got to have all the bits. There's a lot more fragments that are left behind it, but to each their own. That's just me. Surgical says, I've been working on medieval terrain. Someone asked me how to make the bricks and send a template to them. It's like foam bricks, but digital. Yeah, exactly. I've seen you like doing the texture and stuff, and it's the same thing. You start with a brick, and then you texture it in, and then you make a bunch of them. In foam, you start with a brick, you make a bunch of them, and then you pound the texture in. So it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, I see that. Dwarven Troll Slayers. Yes, the ones with the big honking mohawks. I even painted some of mine. I think I have some here. I even painted some of mine with the Mohawk having like stripes, the vertical stripes in it, but I don't know if I got any of those with me. I do have. No, these are Elven Archers. The Troll Slayers, I've got some, but I don't think they're in this batch. I think they're in the other room. So let's get to Windows. This week, I have been, and I said those pictures will be on the Discord later. They're on the Discord now for patrons, but they'll be on there later. So what I did was I took a decent sized piece of, this is just food card, this is from a food package, and I drew 1/2-inch lines all the way across. There are other ways to do it. I just came across this today and forgot I even had this. It's a cutting board with 1/2-inch things. There's lots of ways to do these, but I drew 1/2-inch lines, and then every other line I glued the wood, the matchstick looking things on top of the lines, and then on the bottom one I do it under the line, so it left that 1/2-inch, give or take, this was all done by hand, space between them, and they came out like this. Then I took these, and in each of the 1/2-inch gaps, I took a bunch of pieces and, oh, that one actually fits, and glue them in across this way. I would glue one in, skip a 1/2 inch, glue one, and then another one, and then skip a 1/2 inch. And the reason I did one and another is that way when I cut between them, they come apart like this right here, and that way I can make a bunch in a row. Now you have to be careful if you're doing it with these, because you don't want any of these pieces in your window, the gap, the little space between the things. If I had longer, like square balsa dowels or something like that, I could use that. So I built a bunch of little squares across here. I did try something different. I was going to make some of these open and some of these closed. For the open ones, I wanted some to have shutters, so I have glued on shutters just at an angle. Now you want to use tacky glue for this, not regular PVA, because the regular PVA, I was trying it and the shutter would just flap open while the glue was still wet. So I've got like 4 of these that have the little shutters on them. Now they are fiddly and delicate while you're working with them. I have come back by and put more glue. I stained them first so the stain would soak in. Then I use a stain, just a regular wood stain kind of thing, in a spray bottle. This is a water-based one, obviously. Otherwise it would gum up the spritzer. And then I stained it first, and then I retouched anywhere I needed with glue, because that way, if you put the glue down first, the stain won't soak in correctly. So I stained all the stuff, even though it was wiggly and fiddly, and then came back by. I've got a PVA dispenser with a really fine nib on it, and it lays down tiny little droplets of glue. And so I came back in and re-put those on there. Now you can use super glue, but you will very clearly see it because it will be much shinier than the PVA glue. So to glue the, and I did that for all of them, not just the ones with the shutters. Now the ones with the shutters, I glued the shutter on with tacky glue, and then once it was dry, I did all the other stuff and then came back with my little tiny nib. I also went into each of the, sorry, some of these are stuck together because I stacked them while they were drying. I went in, and I do not know if this is going to show up on camera. I squidged this in to the corners so that it would get between the 2 pieces of wood. And then I also went along the inside edge, just enough to make sure it stuck. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there was glue between this gap and many others. But it, so I can get that, there you go. You can see the light through it. The way PVA glue, wow, I can't believe I'm describing PVA glue again. But the way PVA works, it's got a bunch of little fibers in the glue, and they grab onto what they're needing to grab onto. And as they dry, they sort of pull together. That's why they have so much shrinkage and such. The humidity comes out and all the little fibers go, let's be friends. And they do the thing. Now, that has caused some of these gaps to still be kind of pronounced. Technically, they have glue down the one side, across the little gap, and up the other side. And I am going to be cutting these so they're open and have a hole in them. The only thing holding it together at that point really is the wood, is the food card at the back. So, however you want to fix that, or whichever. Personally, I'd work in a bigger scale. These are in scale, but like I said, Rule of Cool makes bigger better, but not huge big. So you can see the difference. So these have been a experiment in fiddly. this week. So I have a bunch of those. The old school ones, let me grab another house that's got windows on it. Come here. Come on, little housey. You know you want to show these people all of your goodness. What, you don't talk to your builds? Oh, well. Okay, so this is one of my old hovel houses, which are not really hovelly. They have, like, fireplaces and such, but... Okay. Oh, I'm putting it on sideways. That's why it's not fitting. Okay, so this is one of my houses I built early in the channel. I've got a whole 4-part series on building this house or the ones like it. So it's got landscape and stuff. You can fit all that around it. That's why the doors look a little weird, because they're elevated, so they'll fit onto the little door platforms. So, but here are my closed windows. I put way too many windows on this house, but I was just, whatever. So that is what they originally looked like. I had some of the closed part without the frames left laying around, which are, hold on, let me get my house back together here. Gotta get my house in order. Okay, house. And I used those as the spacers for how wide to make the upright pieces. Now you want the top pieces to be the long ones and the bottom, because windows are made where the top of the window frame sits on the uprights. And that is what I have done here. So each of these are the width of one of my closed windows. Some of my closed windows will actually fit down in these, but I got them a little tight. But you can just trim these or make them on the go, and I will do that in just a moment. Let me check the people talking first. Ooh, I've missed a lot of messages. Yeah, the acrylic bases for miniatures are awesome, because that way it doesn't matter what you put. Surgical said that likes to have clear acrylic bases for the bases of the minis. And I do like that, because that way you don't have to texture them. This one's old school, so it's just a black square. This is not how GW recommends you do it anymore. But clear ones are great, because you can sit it on any terrain, and it looks like the terrain, especially if you can get like the 1 millimeter. So acrylic, then you can make them, they're sturdier than like just, there's plastic. I'll explain why I have this out in a minute, but there's plastic clear stuff from containers, packaging, and some people use that, but you can see it's really flexible. If you get the 1 millimeter acrylic sheet for cutting your mini bases, then it's about 2 or 3 times as thick as that, so it's sturdier. And I really like those. I've seen a lot of those used on standees as well. All right, let's see. Yeah, I have seen people use a spray paint, but a lot of times the acrylic sheets, if you're buying it new, it has that plastic layer on it, and usually it's clear plastic on one side and blue plastic on the other. And from what I understand, if you put the blue plastic on the top and you're not using a diode laser, because diode lasers use a blue laser, so it doesn't see it. It goes right. It won't go through. It'll literally like block a laser and can catch on fire. Don't do that. But if you've got the clear on one side, I don't remember if it's supposed to go on the top or the bottom, but one of them helps the laser do its thing to the plastic. But I have seen other people that have just taken like a roller and just some acrylic ink and rolled it across one side, cut what they needed to cut, and then you can just scrub the things off with your thumbs underwater, and it'll take that acrylic paint off. So yeah, there's lots of ways to do acrylic with lasers. Something I feel from Warhammer Fantasy. Yeah, the old world and stuff like that are super cool. I like those models from back then. Thing I want to do and got the idea from guy YouTube. I want to collect goblin and orc figures. This is loosely collected things from various years and lines and companies and make a large chaotic looking. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because that way it's not just 20 guys that look the same on a square. I know they don't really use the square grids for many games anymore, but yeah, those always looked a little silly when they were like the same thing over and over and over again. Okay. Haven't started collecting for it yet. That's all right. You're going to love it when you do. There's all sorts of places to find it inexpensive too. Don't forget to check like garage sales and thrift stores, because I know people find stuff there. If anyone has any old goblins or orcs I want to get rid of. No, goblins are one of the things I actually need more of. I don't really need too many minis, but I do need, I could use more, everybody could always use more goblins. I do have a couple in there that are completely unpainted. Dungeon Matron, glad you made it. Fashionably late is fine. You were worried that you were missing it because I wasn't on earlier. No, starts at 7 p.m. my time, 4 p.m. your time. So you're good. We're here for a while. That's Dungeon Matron, one of my patrons. And we already talked about her Discord. So again, if you want to join her Discord, down below, join my Discord. And then when you go to my Discord, you can message me and I will send you to her Discord. One of these days, Lacey, you got to send me a permanent link to your Discord, and then I'll just post it down below or something. Recently got into zombies and thinking about having werewolf horror kind of. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I have an astoundingly large collection of undead, and I will explain that in just a second. What about gluing the miniatures onto cookie containers, but not sure how that would work out? I'm not sure what kind of cookie container you would mean. But yeah, there's all sorts of things. Real Victor, hello. I think you've been here once before, if I remember. That sounds good. Right. Anyway, welcome either way. Should I get Knights as my first Warhammer 40K armor? I don't play 40K, so I have no idea. So that is not my call. You'll have to ask one of these other guys in the chat because I don't play war games in general, much less Games Workshop. Okay, last message, then I'll get back to Windows. The local shop used to have a bin of old markdown minis back in the day. Yeah, and there's one that has one here. That's where a lot of my undeads come from, like vampires and skeletons. But, and then, oh, that kind of cookie tin. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that would work. That's exactly what these are. They're from food, or some of these are actually from mini. One of these is from a mini pack, a pack of minis that I had. And I just cut all the flat parts I can. I use these for windows and bases for things like the barrels I showed earlier. I will take a bunch of those and glue them in a little bundle and then cut around that. And then I can take that as a bundle rather than one little barrel at a time. I plunk the bundle down on like a pier or in a warehouse, that sort of thing. Yeah, it is flimsy. If it's something that you're not going to be moving a lot, like the barrels and crates and stuff like that, this stuff is fine. But if you're going to be using your minis and it's ones that you're moving all over the place, this is probably not the way to go for minis, I would think. I don't know. All of mine have little bases and stuff that came with them. So speaking of undead, I said I'd explain that in a minute. So I also, a while back, won a drawing from another YouTube channel that is no longer putting out content. So I don't necessarily want to tell you them because you'll go, I'm going to go over there, and they may not ever put out anything new. But I won a thing, and the thing I won is a whole collection of, which end is open? This end? Nope, this end. Of night haunts, like a lot of them. The problem is they are so delicate and so thin that a lot of them have broken wrists and broken ankles and such. So I'm going to have to redo these. Plus, they're only about halfway painted. There's something like nothing's done to the bases. So I'm super excited about this, but it's way on a back burner. I am not the biggest mini painter in the first place, and there are probably 200 minis in here, and definitely over 100. So I'm very excited about that, but I can't get to it right now. Let me put some stuff back here. Oh no! Stuff fell down. All right. So Windows. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, sweet is right. When I won them, I thought it was going to be like a dozen, and because he'd only showed like a few, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm getting this whole box showed up. I'm like, that's a lot of packaging and then I opened it was like blown away. Now, the reason part of them are broken is not just that they're delicate, but also because I don't know if it was U.S. Post or British Post because it came from England, but this is crushed. And so everything on this end is squished. And I am displeased, but you can't argue with free, and got to hear from the post in like 6 days from England. So can't really complain about it. All right. Windows. So Super glue and baking soda is your best friend right now. Yeah, it's definitely going to be super good. The wrists are so thin, I can't even pin them. I am going to have to use super glue and literally sit there and hold it. I do have a set of those the helping hands, so I might try to get the helping hands to hold them in place while the glue sets, but the helping hands have those alligator clips, and those might actually do more damage. It's a whole process. Anyway. Windows. So I made a bunch of these. Like I said, I did them in the strips across the piece of cardboard, and I made a bunch at once. And then I went through and glued, and then I stacked them like this so that they could dry into all the corners before the video tonight. So I have a bunch of these 2 foot by 2 foot in scale windows, and some of them are wanting to stick together, and some of them are fine. So anything that's like this, you just peel it off. Worst case scenario, you come by with a tiny drop of stain and stain a little piece of paper, and all it does is add to the look, because all this stuff is supposed to look like lived-in medieval houses anyway. So yeah, here's one where all 3 of them are stuck together. You see what I'm talking about. I stacked them in 3s. No particular reason to that, just did it. All right, so come on. There we go. Okay, so I have 3 out of the 4 here with the shutters glued on. Now I do have, oh, here's a 6th way to do windows. I told you I might have an extra. What I'm going to do is take these and glue these directly onto the house, and then take, not this whole thing, but like one of these pieces and glue it, instead of up at an angle where it's going to be super fiddly and super delicate like these are. Instead, I will just glue the shutter straight to the side of the building. But right now, I'm going to take all of these, not all of them on the stream tonight, but some of them so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to cut out the inner square, leaving the card holding the wood together at the back, but leaving an open window. Now, what am I going to put in the window? Well, some of these I will be taking, I'll just literally leave them open. I'll figure there's a way to keep them closed inside. But I don't like to have an open hole in mine, because I don't want you to see into the building and see unfinished interior pieces. So those will still get a window across them. And the way I did that is I took some screen wire, which is actually not wire. This is the newer stuff, because they don't really make the metal stuff anymore for, I don't know why. Everything's got to be plastic and pollute the, just skipping that. Anyway, so I've got the screen mesh, and this comes on a big honk and roll. It's cheap, as older British people would say, cheap as chips. And I take it and I took some of the card, the plastic card, which is not actually plastic card, but you know what I mean? The, what is this stuff? Acetate from the food packaging. I took a sheet about this big, and I sanded both sides of it. And back and forth, round and round, all sorts of stuff. If it slips in your hand, that's fine. It just makes it more random. So it went from clear to opaque. And I'm not doing it on a camera because the scratchy noise is loud. Some people like that ASMR thing, but I don't like the scratchy noise. So it made it look like this. I did it on both sides of the plastic. I think you could probably get by with one side. Then I laid the fabric on top of the plastic, and I just smeared PVA into it, made sure to get into all the squares so we get good adhesion. And then I set things on top of it to hold it. Now, if I had found my parchment paper before I did this, there wouldn't be these strange rings that you see here in the glue. Those will not matter, because once you cut these down to fit into these little windows, that's going to be so small that blemish is going to disappear. So now I want to take these and cut them on a 45-degree angle. And I'm just going to use the squares of the grid to tell where that 45 is. I'm literally just looking at the thing, and I'm going to take a bunch of those. Wow, I have little schmutz all over the place. Give me, throw some stuff on the floor here. There we go. Okay, now I will take a nice sharp knife. This one's not, because I've been using it. So let me take my sharpener. And nope, that's the rough side. Get one of these. It will save you. This is about $9. Mine was. I think they're like 12 to 20, depending on normal, but I got mine on sale. And there's little itty bitty tiny bits of diamond dust in the metal. So there's a rougher side and a smoother side. And these will pay for that $9 and just not having to buy extra blades, especially the hobby knife blades, because they're kind of expensive. Now, this are pretty cheap, but it's still better to sharpen it than to have to go buy a new one. So, sharp knife. And it takes like almost nothing to sharpen these. They do have this one has a little guard, so you won't cut yourself. It's actually supposed to sit like this, but I almost never use it that way, except for my bigger knives. And I'm actually concentrating on the tip of the knife blade. So we will take that, just sit that off to the side. And now I want to cut these in 45 degrees. I want to take something straight, which I have a speed square. This is called a speed square. And I know that it is very straight along most of the sides. It sometimes get a little bent because I drop them onto the concrete and all that. So I'm going to use the tougher, the T-shaped side, so I know that it's a straight edge. And I'm going to put that at 45 degrees. And anything bigger than a window, that's where I'm starting. And I want to take these and put them at the 45 degrees, give or take. I need more light or a different angle. Okay, so that's 45 degrees. Nope. That's 45 degrees right there. And it doesn't matter if you get right in the pattern, you just want to follow the 45 degrees, because that way it's easy to line them up after we put them in. Now you want to cut these wide enough strips so that when it is behind one of these windows diagonally, it will cover the whole window. So this strip would actually be a little narrow. So I'm just going to line that up like that. Take that edge off. And remember, I'm not just going through this mesh net, which cuts really easily. I've got to go through the food pack underneath. So it's going to take 2 or 3 slices. And then this one's trash probably, because I don't know that I'll ever have a window that small. And then, because I want them to be wide enough for the windows, I'm going to use this, line it up on this edge, which you won't really be able to see on the camera, and then cut on the opposite side. Oops. And again, you don't want to try to push through, because it'll catch the piece you're trying to cut and pull it wonky. So just several low, slow cuts, just enough so that the nice sharp blade does its job after 2 or 3 or 4 or 20 cuts. Okay, and then you get strips like this, and then those will fit behind the windows at a 45-degree angle. No, you don't want them behind 45. You want to line those up with the strips, which will make these at a 45-degree angle, and it will look like leaded windows. So I'm gonna cut a bunch of these strips real quick. See what we got going on. Oh my gosh, y'all are so excited in the chat tonight. Let's see. Quick Zenithal Prime. Yep, that would work. I don't have any contrast paints. I have no mini paints. I'll have to figure that out. I'll either have to get some, which I cannot afford, or I'll figure out how to do it with acrylics, which I know that's blasphemy to some, but it's what I've got. Baking soda will insta-set. Yep. Sand off the excess. I don't know that I could sand them without re-breaking them. They are so tiny. Those wrists are significantly thinner than this guy's spear shaft. They are thin, thin, thin. We're talking about my Night Haunt minis that I was showed earlier. Super fun silver bayonet battle reports. That sounds cool. Oh, I like that. The story more than the rules. Yeah. I think it's, well, that's the whole thing about, is narrative wargaming technically role playing, or is role playing just complicated narrative? I'm not getting into all that. Loosely Collected says, I take the tiny broken stuff like that, dip both sides of the break in super glue, then dip them into the baking soda, leaving a little extra on. Yeah, I could dip one side into the baking soda and one side into the glue. If I do the other, otherwise I'll just end up with a big ball of super glue stuff. I am pretty delicate. I'll manage one way or the other. But like I said, that's on my way back burner. I don't really do mini stuff much. I do the terrain. That's up hard and strong and quick. Yeah, I use AC glue. That's what does that stand for? It's AC. It's not AC. CA, cyanoacrylate. That's super glue. If I say C8, I mean CA, I mean super glue, crazy glue, or whatever. I use that and baking soda all the time. I also use that and sand. I also use that and there's a couple other powders I use. Delicate vines for the eye stalks. Whew, yeah, CA and baking soda. That's good. And it's tougher than the plastic. CA and baking soda makes that plasticky sort of film. Hey, Dinky Dioramas, you did show up. You said you're gonna. Ever thought about sharpening stones for blades? Yeah, it's a great thing. Somebody suggested that to me. I don't even remember who it was. I was watching a video and they said, "Oh, you need to get a diamond sharpener." And they had a different style to mine and all that, and they use theirs all the time. And this has saved me more than its cost in having to replace fewer blades. Also, in the heat of the moment, when you're cutting something and you start to realize that blade is getting dull and starting to pull, it's easier to whip this out and sharpen it than it is to swap out a blade on a knife. Transparent artist inks work in places to like contrast, because I have those. I've got a whole barrel of the little tiny inks that are designed for like aging scrapbooking stuff. So I might try that. Okay, now that I'm done, I caught back up on the reading. Let's get back to the cutting and the doing. Because I can cut and do and talk, and I can read and talk, but I cannot cut and read and talk at the same time. I don't know if y'all caught that on my last time across here. My blade went a little off and cut into here. It's not going to matter as long as it stays glued together, as long as you're just careful at the meantime. And remember, everywhere the blade is at is technically the edge of this little strip and is going to be hidden outside of the bounds of the window anyway. So if you mess up along this cut, nobody cares. To quote that meme from the first Jurassic Park, nobody cares. All righty. Yeah, I've got one of the sharpeners with the pull through. I don't know if mine is just super old, which it is, or what, but I find that it sharpens the blade. But if you look at the blade really close up, it's not a smooth edge anymore. It's sharp, but it's wonky. The thing literally rips chunks out of the blade or cut. I don't know. Mine's not working. I'll have to try a different one, a new one. But again, I've already got this one, so I don't really need to go try any other one. But I do have one of the drag through ones. Like I said, nice, low, slow passes. Don't want to pull on it because you don't want the plastic to go funky, wonky sideways. And it takes about 4 to 5. The way at the particular pressure I'm doing it, it takes about 4 or 5 or 50 apparently times to get through it. And each one makes a little strip. And you can take these strips, line them up with the window. After we cut the windows out, I haven't done that yet. And then you'll line that up on that, and then you can glue it into place. And then once the glue dries, you can trim it off, and there you go. Or you don't have to trim it off. You can cut the hole in the house and slide the window in from the back. And when you do it that way, you can actually use this as a little flange around it to hold it in place and give you more area to glue on the inside, which I think I might do. Okay, so I got about 3 more strips on this one, and then I'm done cutting diagonals. Let me take all these other little scrappy bits that I was just using to show you guys, you folks, you lovely peeps. And I will take these and just sit them off to the side. I collect lots of stuff like this because you never know when you can use this in a rubble pile or something like that. I don't really do too much modern stuff, so having a screen wire in a rubble pile might be a little strange, but I'm sure I will find something to do with it. If nothing else, you can take this stuff. You can see how flexible the fabric is. You can actually use this as cargo netting over things, even for like medieval looking stuff, for like on your pirate ships, your merchant ships, and just like have this suspended with, I don't really have anything to put in it, but have this suspended with stuff in it as a cargo net from like a rope or something. And you make little bags out of it like that, and you can see the stuff through it. Or you can drape it over it as like a protective covering or whatever you would have on a dock. So screen mesh is super cheap. It comes in big rolls. You can get it in several different sizes. It comes in different colors. You don't have to get it in just black. It also comes in a green. It comes in a silvery, etc. So you can get the one you want. And I have found that it takes paint pretty well. So we'll sit that over there. But yeah, I like anything that I can use for multiple things. So using it for cargo netting from the scraps and things like that is a good thing for me. Let's see. Yeah, you can keep it to make broken windows, especially if you need like even the small offcut I could probably use. I don't do a lot of ruined buildings, but yes, you certainly could. And I do ruined buildings if they're going to fit into one of my campaigns, because I haven't run a campaign since before the plague broke out. But that sort of thing. Oh, I got to roll back up. Check out. Okay, sits up hard and strong. Quick. Okay, we're still talking about CA glue there. And a Halloween pumpkin jack-o'-lantern beholder I printed that had delicate font. Yeah, we covered that. Never about the sharpening stone. Yes. Transparent artist inks. Yes. I use a pumice stone to sharpen my X-Acto blades. Yeah, that'll work if you've got the smooth ones. I have some of those really cheap, like $1 whetstones, and I use those as well. I do not a whetstone whets your blade, but they can also be used wet. Not why they're called whetstones. And I don't typically wet them when I'm sharpening like craft knife blades, but you can. Keeps the dust down a little, because sometimes those do produce a little bit of dust. I usually don't care. I pick mine up after every use and blow off the dust and put it away. And Sim Peasant. Hey, how you doing, Jess? That's Jess. Jess has a channel called Sim Peasant. Plays a lot of super chill games, so go check out Sim Peasant's channel as well. And yeah, I'm caught up on the chat. Okay, back to slicing these little lines. For anybody just now tuning in, these are a piece of screen glued on a piece of sanded acetate so that it comes out opaque. And then you put the screen on it, and that way you can have a window with a leaded look, but won't allow actual visibility into the buildings. So that is what I am doing right now. And I realized after the fact that I'm not exactly on the 45 degree on this, and I don't care. It's close enough. Leaded windows are not perfect even now because they're all done by hand. They certainly weren't done back perfectly every time in the medieval era. Plus, all of my games are set in a fantasy world, and yeah, who knows how picky their craftspeople are. This is failing to cut, and it's starting to snag stuff. So we will get through this last one. Oh, we will not even make it through this last one. We're going to take that and bend it, crack it apart, resharpen. Sharpen early, sharpen often. Remember, it's got a coarse side and a smooth side. Always finish with the smooth side. Even if you do need to take off a lot on the coarse side, make sure to finish on the smooth. I don't actually need it that sharpened. I just need to re-edge that blade. Like I said, blow off all that dust so it doesn't collect in the little thingy. And we got one more strip that I can get out of this. I could possibly get two, but it's literally not worth the headache of trying to cut that little piece. We will take this now fully operational hobby knife and finish cutting this one off. Okay, again, like I said, I keep these for rubble and all sorts of other stuff. So set that off to the side. These will be part of the windows. Now, because I just cut through that plastic and hardened thing, I'm going to resharpen again, even though I just did. You will see why in a moment. Again, I'm not really cutting towards my finger. There is a catch here. So as long as you keep the blade on the surface, you're going to be all right if you've got one like this. If you're worried about it, there's a bigger guard here, and you can put it in the handle and do it that way. But usually when I'm in a hurry, I don't. Okay, I might still need this, so I'm going to leave it out. Now, all of my windows, I'm going to start to cut out this little square, and that's going to be super boring to watch, but that's all right. All right, you want a really pointy knife. Don't worry, my finger's actually trick of the camera. It's not near the blade. You want a really pointy knife, and you want it really sharp. And then there's no way to do this but delicately do it. Now, you could, I suppose, cut out a hole in the middle that's just close enough, and then you take the knife and then push toward the edges to do it that way, but I'm just going to dig right on in there and like that. And now there's glue in these corners, so it's probably going to take more than one pass on each side. And let me get a feel for the amount of glue and the amount of cardboard and start to go through that. And then you can just barely see where that's starting to come through here. So you can switch to the back once you know where that line is, and then do it from the back as well. But I'm going to do most of these from the front. Now, if you cut off a little piece of the wood and it ends up in here, as long as it's not too big a piece where it's going to interfere with the thing, it's fine. Now, this is super fiddly and repetitive. There's no quick way to do this. I'm only going to do about 3 of these. So I'm going to on the camera tonight, and then we'll get to gluing the leading into them. Okay. There's 3 sides of this window. And 4 sides of this window, which I am sure that you cannot see, but there is no way I'm going to get a camera in here where I'm looking. Okay, so then I've got these 4 pieces. Now, I want to take this, go to the back, finish nicking through those corners as necessary. And now that we've got that done and we can push that piece out whichever way, and it starts to come loose, you will see sometimes the card starts to come apart, but the card is in layers, and you can afford to lose a few of those layers of paper and still have it be intact enough to keep the frame together. That's a delicate thing you're just going to have to work out for yourself. There is no way to describe how much or what, and it depends on the particular card you're using, the humidity in the air, how delicate you are. I am kind of not. So I'm just going back through the sides and trimming all of those. And at some point, oh, good Lord. At some point, that will come loose, which it's still not doing. But I swear it'll happen. And you don't want to force it because you can bend your frame, you can snap your frames, etc. So, as I said, going forward, I'm doing these because this is literally for the demonstration tonight. It actually pulled off one layer of that card all the way around. That's fine. This is trash, or you can keep it for rubble if you want. I don't typically keep paper because I can always get more paper for rubble. And paper in the landfill isn't nearly as bad as plastics. So then, oh wow, that made it go wonky, so it's not even square anymore. So take the blade, pull that carefully in place, and then you can do things like trim up this piece here where that piece is hanging, and get rid of that. Get rid of that. Oh, this thing is so delicate. Okay, now this is where I would strongly suggest you use the super glue. You want to push that back into square and then put some glue on the back to keep it in shape, or you can simply glue it straight to the thing, to the window. And I think I am going to glue it to the window with, now this already has white glue on it. So what I am going to do is take my little tiny glue nib, put tiny droplets of glue along this, kind of smear those in. This is why you want a delicate glue. An alternative, if you don't have a tiny little nib bottle like this, you can stick either stick a syringe needle on the end of something like this nib, and it will do basically the same thing. Or you can put the glue down in a puddle and then use a toothpick or something and smear the glue around. But now that I have the glue on my frame, which does not want to stay square, I'm going to hold it as square as I can do it by eyeball. I'll take that, and we want to line it up with the strip, because that way that will make the leading here 45-degree diagonal inside. Now, there's one. Only another 120 of these to do, which I promise I will not do all of which to y'all tonight on the stream. I could. I've got the patience, I got the technology, but Y'all don't want to see me do this 420 times. Okay. And I'm putting a little bit more glue all the way around the outside edge just to make sure that it's got good adhesion. I'm going to put these in from the back so that the meshing works like a flange to hold them in shape. So let me cut one more of these and stick it on the other one. And I think that's going to be it for these windows. And then we can go on to something else. Nib on. Don't let the blade cut me. All right. Yeah, Loosely and Sim talking to each other. How do I? Yeah, keeping to make broke windows. Okay. So, like I said, sharp blade. Wedge it into that edge where the card meets the frame. And this is hard to do at this angle, so I'm doing it 90 degrees off from where I should be. And just come along in nice, slow little passes here. And you're going to do it in multiple passes and slowly, and eventually you'll get all the way through. And then you can come from the back and finish it up and things like that. So we're going to do that without talking about it so much. All righty. So upcoming projects. Let me talk about that. I am working on the role-playing game. I have come to the conclusion that everybody I have spoken to about the role-playing game does not have the passion for it that I do, because I keep having friends say, oh yeah, I'll help you with that. Or I keep having people online say, oh yeah, I'll help you with that. And then I'm like, okay, great. I need this and this and this. And I'm very clear. I'm like, I need these bullet points. I need them done within 10 days. Can you get that? And then I never get your back. Not really ghosted, but I get stuff all back. And people have their own stuff going on. I'm not mad about this. This is absolutely not a complaint. It is just commentary. People come back and go, oh man, I had a thing going on. Sorry, I haven't even checked email in 3 days. I'm like, yep, I get that. No problem. But I've come to the conclusion that I am going to be making a one-man video or role-playing game, not video. So, lore is super easy for me. I am creative about that. I can make stuff up on the fly. If you gave me a scenario right now, I could make the entire thing play out and have it fit into an ongoing plot and all that. That is the easy part. The problem is the mechanics. And at first, I was going to write a game that was just the mechanics, basically an SRD, and try to get people interested that way and then put out world books. And somebody said that that's not necessarily a good way to go. Specifically, Lisa, Dungeon Matron, said that is not necessarily a good way to go, because if people don't want to switch to the system, then they're never going to read future lore. If I make lore really good and put it out as a world with a system in it, people will tend to fall in love with lore more readily. And once they're pulled into the story, and then the system happens to go along with the lore, and so that's how they can play it out, that might be a better way and to go from there. So I think I'm going to do that. Creating a new world to put with the mechanics is super simple, because I've, in fact, always distracting myself by, I'll start to think about a mechanic, and then I'll try to think of a scenario where it would work and how I want to describe it. And the next thing I know, I'm describing, why the orcs control this one continent and the elves are in enclaves, and all, I'm off and running. So I distract myself from work with work, which is good and bad. So, other things I've got going on. The plumbing thing, I keep going on about the plumbing thing. It took 7 months to get it fixed, but the plumbing thing is fixed now. That one came out a lot easier because I was concentrating on it more. Again, you can save these for rubble or whatever. I don't save card because I can always get more food card. So you'll end up with little things like this little piece in here. I don't know if you can really see it. So you can just come by with your knife and trim all that up after. I tend to just take a 45 angle in from the back approach and just shave it all off, because that way, even if I catch a little of the wood from the window frame, no one's ever going to see it because it's on the back. And literally just taking that to scrape that edge clean. Do that all 4 ways around. Now this one's that's going to come loose. I saw that was already untaped. That is fine. You've got multiple layers of the card to work with, so you're not worried about that being little. And this one, as you can see, is not going all wonky. That's because I have a lot more of the card still attached. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this little line of glue all the way around the edge. In fact, I think that I will get rid of this glossy layer entirely, just so the glue grabs better. It will grab the glossy layer, but might as well put the glue directly on the paper. PVA is really designed for wood and paper. So having it attached directly to paper is probably a good way to go. And that first layer peels off and leaves plenty of card on the back to keep it steady. So we'll take that, toss that. Again, if you don't have a little tiny nib like this, you can use a syringe needle on the end of another nib like this and just stick it on there and you get tiny little bits of glue. Or you can put a puddle of glue and then use like a Q-tip to lay it on delicately. Put a cap on that while I'm not doing that so I don't hack a finger off. Okay, that's the front. Flip it over. So don't forget, I have a link to my Discord in the down below. So we have all sorts of discussions going on there. Mostly I post puns and crafting humor right now, but we do have whole discussion areas. So if anybody wants to join the Discord, it's down in the down below. Please feel free after the live is over to come back, reset the page, and leave a comment because that really helps with the almighty algorithm. Okay, now I'm taking the same nib and I'm going around the outside edge of this because I'm going to be using this piece again as a flange and putting the windows in from the back. And now, if I was to put these with a shutter, and which I'm actually going to do, and with the screen wire on the back, in order to make it look like you can't get, if you've got leaded glass, you can't open the shutters from inside the house. So it would be weird to have shutters like that. So what I'm going to do is take something really like another one of these little pieces of wood from when I made the frame, and I'll put it right in the middle. And that way it'll look like you can grab those windows and open them from inside. But right now I'm going around this outside edge and putting just a little more glue on here. You see that? And that will help secure and set these more precisely. Okay. And I said I wanted 2 windows in the front, 1 in the back. Okay, I'm gonna have to do at least a third one of these. So let's get to that, see if I'm missing anything in the comments. Nope. Okay, so again, on my old houses, these used to look like closed windows because I would have 2 pieces of coffee stir stick in here to look like there were shutters that were closed. And I think I'm going to do that for this for the one on the back of the house. But if it's got shutters, then these need shutters. How do I put those on? Huh. Okay, I'm going to take one of these and one of my busted stir sticks. And remember, you want the top and the bottom ones to be the long ones because you want these smaller ones to look like they are supporting the top of the window. Now, this one's not square, so I have to decide. It's purely, excuse me, just choice of whether I want it wider at the top or the bottom. I think I'm going to have it wider at the top just because. I'm going to take some of this stir stick, stick it down in there, measure it, nip it off there, and glue it in so this one looks like it's closed. I don't actually have any of the closed ones already made, so I'm going to have to whip one up here real quick. Not going to be using that for it, so let's get that out of the way so I don't cut myself. That, and then these are not the nippers for the job, but they'll allow me to mark it at the right spot. We'll take that and nip that, and then we'll take the tougher nippers and wow, I'm bad lighting at this angle. And then we'll take that. Now these little pieces want to go firing off at like rocket speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to sit it down like this, and that way I catch this piece inside. Now this is going to go right in there like a shutter. Now sometimes you end up with weird little pieces here. You can sand that off or whatever, but what I usually do is take my smaller nippers, and these are delicate enough I can take those little corners off. Take that, a little bit of glue, drop it in there, and now I have half of a closed window. Oops, got a bit of a little squeeze out there. Let's wipe that off. All right, where's my thing? Okay, here it is. And I already know that these will fit because these are what I used as a spacer in the first place. Again, I want to take this, mark where I'm going to be cutting that, Take the tougher ones, flip them over the right way. In case you're wanting to look up where to get these, I don't have any affiliate links or anything, but these are called diagonal cutters. And so if you need to get some from the hardware store, that's what you want to look up, is diagonal cutters. This is called a nipper. So if you want the small ones, this is a nipper. These come in radically different amounts of quality. This one's like a $2 one I got from some Chinese knockoff thing. And if this one, if you cut something like a paperclip, you'll bend the blade like horribly. There are super sturdy ones that are designed for electronic works. You can get those as well, but they're basically called nippers or tiny needle nose clippers, like little, like miniature. But anyway, you get the idea on how to find those. Okay, so a little bit of drop of glue, little bit of drop. Good grammar, Cross. You're good at English. Okay, so we're going to take that, drop it in there, and now I have a closed window. Now, I was thinking of painting these before, but I totally forgot. So I'm just going to have to paint around the doors when I'm done, and I'm okay with that. So this one, since I'm putting these in from the back on the inside, what I am going to do on this is I'm going to take this and a tiny piece of food card, and you're going to take that and glue that across the back of the thing. In fact, I'm going to peel off this shiny side just to make sure I got good glue adhesion. Okay. And that made it a little thin, but it doesn't matter because we're about to glue this to that. And it's a closed one with all these wood pieces underneath. So take that, not that one, this one. A little bit of glue, does not take much. You would not believe how little white glue you actually need on stuff. It's people I see I do it, huge globs of glue on, and you don't need to. This is actually more than I'll need for this. I'll take that, glue it to, I'll put it here. That way this side is going to be, nobody's ever going to see inside the house, but I'm doing it just for aesthetics. So we will let that sit here. That'll take a few minutes to, oops, this way. So that'll take a few minutes for that to get tacky. In the meantime, I am going to take these and cut them apart. I'm going to use scissors for that. And it's fine if this whole piece is on here. So I'm just going to leave that. I want to take this piece, figure out where my window is going to be. My mini stands just about as tall as my door, so I want to figure it on that. We want to put the window not quite at the height of the door. We want to put it a little bit lower, so I'm going to put it so that the center line of the window is about 2/3 of the way up my door. I am purely eyeballing it. I am not doing this with any measurements or anything, so I'm going to take that, put it about where I want it, and I'm centering it here pretty much. And then taking that and pressing it in fairly firmly. And I will then take a hobby knife and cut out that square. Little slow passes. Remember, I've got paper on the inside of here from last week's episode, you can tell. So I want to go through the foam, which I can probably do on one try, and then through the paper, which I can probably do on the second try. As I explained last week, when you're cutting into pointy, sharp things, you want to cut from the corner. So I'm going to start here and cut, whoops, got away from me there, and cut toward it. But then once I start to go get to that side, I want to go to the other side and pull toward my first cut. That way I don't accidentally cut off into my wall. Now, these are supposed to look like plastered walls once I'm all done with it. So a crack in the wall is not bad, and a crack in the wall near a window is realistic, but I'd rather just not. So again, you want this blade as sharp as possible. I can already tell that I have dulled it again, but there's the bottom of the window. And up both sides. Why is it having trouble getting through that paper? Anyway, so I've cut essentially the bottom out of the window. Now I'm cutting the other sides. or top, or whatever you want to say. The window's basically square, so when I say side, I mean edge. Okay. Now, I'm going to break my own rule here and cut toward that corner because the paper on the inside is slowing down the knife blade. So as long as I'm delicate, I can do that and do that. And now this, and again, you can keep these for rubble or whatever you want to do. These would actually make really good paving stones. So then this piece will now fit in from the back. And I clearly cut too much, but I can always fill that in with something later or literally just ignore it. By the time I paint this wall, that will probably disappear. So I am now going to push that back out. Take that, and I want to put a little glue all the way around this inside edge or the outside edge of the window. And I'm going to do it on the outside edge of the window. And that is, and by outside edge, I mean actually on the wood of the window frame itself and on the little flange at the back. But the outside edge will allow the window to not potentially move in the thing once it's all set and done. Set and done, not said and done. And you don't need as delicate a nib for this thing that I'm doing. I just happen to already have this bottle out. And I've got this flange here anyway. I might as well use it. So let's put some more glue on that. And we will take that and push that in from the back. And only wants to fit one way, and I think I put it in upside down from the way I did it before. Again, you want the longer pieces on the bottom and top so that it looks like the side pieces are supporting the top part of the frame. Now, this foam is 5 millimeters when it has both of the layers of paper on it. Each of the layers of paper is about 1/2 mil. So right now, this foam is about 4 mil thick, but it's also had that texture rolled into it before I ever started. So I've used the texture roller on it. And so it's somewhere between 3 and 4 mil. And that window is in and installed. And as you can see, it will allow light through, but it's not transparent. It's translucent. All right, let me check the thing again before I go putting the other windows on. Yeah, we all do it. We want the line of glue to be like, boop, there's a line of glue. And you realize when I was putting these pieces together and I was trying to get the glue into these corners, I started to realize that you only need this much, not this much. You really need way less than you think you do. Okay, so where's my other one? There they are. There they is. There they is. Good English, Cross. Okay, so again, we're going to take one of these. This one, the glue is not fully set on it, so I'm going to take this. These others are all close enough. They're all made on the same way, so I'm going to take that and line it up. Press it in. And then cut. Wow, can't see where I did that. That's all right. We'll start at the top. Start from a corner. This pointy blade will sink right into that, so we'll take that, put it in, and again, only cut part way, and then go to the other side and start from the corner again. That's the top done. Wow, I did not make that dark enough. Let's make that. Like I said, you need to press that in fairly firmly so that you can see where you need to cut. So start from the corner, cut part way, start from the corner. My finger is not in the way in the back, by the way. I don't know if you can see, but I know that I've got like a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch right there before my finger. Like that, cut to the other cut. Now the top and bottom are done. Now the sides, you can start at that same corner. It should be easier to start since there's already a place for the blade to come in. And then carefully drag to the other cut. And one more. Ooh, that's close to my finger. Let's not do that. There we go. Okay. Gently and delicately to the other cut. And again, like I said, you can use these for paving tiles or anything like that. I keep a lot of stuff for use as rubble later. Now this is a front one again, so I want to take one of my ones that's open. Now these are eventually going to have shutters, but I'm going to do them on the outside of the window. So you will see in just a moment. So now I want to take this, glue, well, first off, let's make sure it fits. No, it doesn't. This one's a little larger, so I'm going to take my knife and measure twice, cut once. Okay, shave a little bit more off. That should be good on the top one, and then under the bottom one and the top one. I want to cut in a little, and then I need to take off an entire, like 1/3 of a millimeter. Okay, that's probably too much, but too much will allow the window in, and I can always, it'll look fine after it's in. Okay, so, oh, I just broke my window. Excellent. I love that. Love when that happens. Okay, so now you get to see me repair stuff. Okay, this is why I like having the card on the back, because even though that piece broke off, it's still attached. So I will take that, put it back where it was, press it into place. This is that one that was going all wonky at the beginning to begin with, so we'll take that, press it back into shape. Then we'll put some more glue around the edge. Now remember, adding this glue is going to make that other glue that's already having issues want to come undone again. So we've got to be careful with it, because it's basically reactivating that other glue because of the moisture. But we are going to put a little bit of glue around most of the edges, not that bottom edge because I ran out of room. So I'm putting this onto both the wood and the mesh. And then on this bottom where I don't have any mesh, I'm still putting some on the wood. And then just a little over here just because why not? Okay, now I'm going to take that. It should, big air quotes, should fit in here again. And close enough that I can manhandle it once it's already in there. Now, I am going to be crazy and do a thing that you do not have to do. I am going to take this and put a tiny bit of glue into the cracks around the edge. Just all this little glue will help it to be more solid once it dries. And with white glue, as long as it's a small bead, you don't even have to press it flat or anything, because again, it shrinks as it dries. So good to go there. Have any of you tried running a blade tip through a candle flame to cut foam? I have done before with a little tea candle, but I find that I don't have the control I need with it. I'll usually get it too hot and the foam will melt back away from the blade. So I'll end up with a bigger cut than I want. But I have tried it and it can work. Now, if I'm just needing to hack through something quick, heating up a blade or even something like a sewing machine, like a sewing needle, and then, holding it in pliers so you don't burn yourself or whatever, and put it on the flame and then stick it in there, or a piece of paper clip and stick that in there and then use it like a hot wire rod cutter. Yeah, those are, that's easy enough doing it. But for delicate work, I find that I don't actually have the temperature control finesse to do it. A little bit of glue around the edge, a little bit of glue around the edge. Oops. Totally missed that one. Get it near the crack I need the glue to go in. Okay. Now, you can't use PVA as a filler because it shrinks up so much, it will reopen the gap once it's done. I'm using it to stabilize this once they're done. You can already see it doing it here. So I'm not squeezing anymore. I'm literally just smoothing it back and forth. Now, I have a hole that's too big for my window here. So I pushed my window up because it'll be easier to hide something below a window where your eyesight won't see it as easily than it will to hide something at the top where there's going to be a big gap. So I've just pushed this window up a little inside. But again, that's not going to be a big deal. Worst case scenario, I could do something like stick a window box, like a flower box on there and cover that entire gap. Okay, now on this one, again, just eyeballing it, we're going to take it and put it about the same elevation. Now the elevation matters because I'm putting stonework around the bottom of this building, but I'm doing that next week. So I kind of want the windows to sit into the stonework. I would want the stone to go like hold the window, but that's purely aesthetics. It depends on how you want to do it. So my stonework's actually going to be higher than my bottom windowsills, I think. Okay, so then take that, again, press it in and firmly so that I get a good indentation of that frame I want to cut out. And then lather, rinse, repeat. Do like just like I did on the front ones. Ooh, that is getting dull. Let's resharpen. Because I'm really only cutting with like the front third of this blade. So I keep having to resharpen the same part over and over. Which is fine. That's why I have the sharpener. There are precise ways to do this that are the correct techniques. I don't do that. As long as I'm cutting it or sharpening it where it stays, where it's better than it was when I first touched it, and each time is fine. Where's my window? There it is. Okay, that. And now we'll cut through that. Now we'll cut the top part. Much better. Sharp is good. Remember, you are far more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than a sharp one. Okay. Halfway done with that. Oh, come on now. Okay. Being reluctant. There we go. 3/4 done. Okay. Now, this should fit in this window hole. I got that one pretty dang close. That is good. I like it. So that's going to be my closed window in the back. So again, pop that out now that I know it fits. Glue on the edge and the flange. Glue on the edge and the flange. And glue on the bottom. Glue on the top. And press into place. All of my glue from the top and bottom smeared all over my fingers. Let me wipe that off real quick. So I'm going to take that and put it right back in the groove like that. This is where the delicate things come in handy, is stuff like this. So put a little bit squidged down in there and up into there. That one, that's pretty well, it's pretty good at the top. We'll leave that at the top. So that one's good. That one's ready to go. Now for the outside, on the front, we're going to take 2 of these little shutter pieces like this, and I'm going to take those and put them like that. That one's too small. So we will take 2, and we'll take our one piece over here. Now this one I've used to stir some green paint or something. So if you want a mossy look or something, you can add really thinned out acrylics and get like mossy looking lumber. I cut off the other end where it didn't look like that already, so I'm not using this. I'll use this for something else later. But I'm going to take one of these. Might as well use, I'm needing tiny little pieces. So I'm going to take this broken piece that's in here if I can get it. Not that one, that's the wrong size. This one. And these aside. All right, now I want to take that and measure the window. It only has to be close because it needs to look about right. So I'm going to take that and again, nick it so I know where to cut. Then I'm going to take that and nip it with these. Again, these pieces like to shoot off. So what I'm going to do is take that. I can get it lined up right. I can't see because I don't have a light at the right angle. Here we go. That there. And I'm using this. I'm just putting it down like this so it catches down here and doesn't go flying off across the workroom. Now, you can trim these, but you don't need to because they're not going in the frame. So we need this. I need 4 of these. So I'm just going to use this to gauge the others close enough. Take that, put it there. Now, if I just take the big nippers and stick them in there, this is going to be too long because there's a, technically the term is kerf, but there's a space right there between the outer edge and the cutting edge. So I'm going to take this piece and nick where I want to cut it. And I'm going to do all 3 of these at once. Take this, nick where I want to cut it, and nick where I want to cut it. Okay, now I take the bigger one that'll go through it easy, and okay, and that. And now check to see if I've got any pieces that are just radically sticking out and look weird. So take those off and just nimp those corners. This other piece, save it. Like I said, I save all these little pieces of wood for rubble, and who knows? This can still, I can still get another shingle out of that for another window. I mean, it looks like it's a tiny little offcut that you don't need, but these things, they're always useful. And it's not even like a money-saving thing or a keeping it out of the landfill thing with those. For me, it's mostly like there's going to be that time when it's like, oh, that's the perfect thing. I'll use that. Okay, so now you can, and I think I'm going to, where these shutters are going to go, I'm not having these stick out like these. I am just going to lay them flat on the building. So what I'm going to do is where the shutter is going to go, I am going to scratch up the foam just a little so the glue will grab a little better. It's called giving it more tooth. I'm giving more tooth to the thing. Okay. All right, and this part gets really boring. Tiny little, and again, you don't need as much glue as you think. So tiny little bit of glue, and I'm going up and down the whole run of it just because, and sticking it on there. I'm not worried about any squeeze out because white glue contracts and it'll pull itself up. Okay, now I have just a little bit overlapped the frame just because that gives the implication that there's a hinge there. It shows that it's attached to the window. You can put it all the way out on the side if you want, but you don't need to. And again, these are just looking good enough. So, little tiny drop of glue, dab, drop, whatever, drop of glue, and overlap that frame just a little, and press, let it tack itself on, and move on to the next. A little bit of glue, then get on, overlap it a little, let it tack itself into place, take the next one, and there you go. You have 2 open windows. Now, these are leaded, so it looks like you can't get to the shutter, and that's where I was saying you take the little pieces like this, make sure that they fit. This is going to be a tweezer thing. You could probably do it by hand, but I'm going for speed here. I think this is too long. It is by tiny amounts. You want to take small nippers and take off just a little. If you're starting with a longer piece, it's going to be actually easier than starting from a smaller piece. I want to make sure this piece fits, which it now will. I will then take that, and rather than try to put glue onto the tiny little piece, I'm going to put glue in here because it'll all be clear when it's done. It'll all turn transparent. Pick that up and put that down into the frame. And now it looks like you can open the window inside the shutter. Oh, that piece slid, so let's put that back into place. And there you go. Now, one more little piece to fit in this other one. This one, I think, will already fit. It will. So we will take this. Oh, oops, my leading is sliding. All right. Slide that back into place. This white glue, it takes a while to set up, so you can still slide it into place. Now, a little bit on the middle, little tiny line right there. Grab the other piece here. Wedge it in there for the center of the window. And that's it. The windows on this house are done. You can come back by if you want and put glue around on the inside edges here, which I am doing, but you don't have to. My leading on this got totally wonky and at an angle, and you can't tell from the front. You're not going to see that at game scale. If you really want, you can go back in and adjust the stuff and move it around, but you don't have to. I'm picky, so I'm going to, but you don't have to. So there you go. Realigned that. As long as that white glue is still slippy, but I know I bumped one of my shutters. But essentially, I'm already done right now. I'm just being picky. Oh, need some more glue under that one. And of course, if you want it dilapidated or anything, you can always put the shutters on wonky or leave one laying against the bottom of the house or whatever. So, come on. You stay there. You move back to the middle. And that had glue on the mesh, and I moved to the mesh. So let's put a little bit more in there just to make sure. That was way too much on that end, but that's okay. Okay, now this is well and truly done. I'm gonna leave it the heck alone. This is gonna dry till next week, and next week we will be putting on stonework around the bottom edge. That should go pretty quick. I also need a chimney for this, which I haven't built, and there's gonna be roof work. So I may get to all of that next week or only some of that. I am at 8. Oh, I am over. I normally try to go an hour and a half, and I'm at an hour and 40 minutes now. So we're gonna call it a night. But first, let me go through and make sure that I haven't missed anything important in the chat. So let's make that a little less boring because I'm not going to be doing anything. So let's switch cameras. Let's take a look. Blade through the candle flame, did that one. Well, it's good to know that one. Used a blade attachment on a pyrography pen. Yeah, I have a pyrography pen, but it gets super hot. The adjustable one would be much better. I do have an adjustable soldering iron, but it does not have a fine enough point. I think what I'm going to do, it's got the kind of points where you can unscrew it and take the point out. I think I'm going to take a piece of wire and just sand that down to a point, stick the wire in there and pinch it in, and it will work the same way. Live streams noticed lately, YouTube's live stream chats will stall. Yeah, I've seen that. You're like the 4th or 5th person I've seen talk about that, where the chat stalls and you have to basically reset the page. So yes, it hasn't happened to me, but it has happened to chats I've been in where other people have said that. So I think it's on a user end side, not a server end side. But yeah, I can see how that'd be really annoying. Okay, I see saving tiny scraps like a strange form of miniature hoarding. Yep. Yeah, mini hoarders. Does this bring you a tiny bit of joy? Then keep it. Does it give you no joy at all? Then toss it. It's like tiny, what's her face? I don't remember her name, but you know who I'm saying. Okay, so closed window. Oops, forgot. Closed. Where's switchback? Closed window. That one has paper on the inside. You don't even have to put the screen wire, nothing like that. These have the screen, which is done with the opaque sanded plastic with the screen wire glued on it. And then that plastic allows it to set up and be used like a flange on the inside, but it allows it to be opaque, so you can't really see through the window. You can see that it's a window. You can see light coming through it if you've got like an LED burning behind it, but you don't actually have to see inside the building, so you can't see like my supports or this label or anything like that, because my windows will be opaque. Yeah, so next week we've got, in the next weeks, I've got a chimney I got to figure out on this one. That's going to be easy. I've got a way I do that. I have changed the way I do the tops to the chimneys. In these old ones, where'd that house go? There it is. In these old ones, I painted a straw and stuck the straw in there. I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'm going to use a push pin and cut the end off the push pin so that it looks like a little chimney cap. And that way I can just stick it in, and it'll be easier to paint than the straw anyway. And the straw I had to paint down on the inside as well because it was still too shiny and blur, 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 blur. So I am switching to using the push pins, and I think that will work better. If I could find brown push pins, that would be amazing, but I haven't found any. I've only got the big bright colors. But let me show you exactly what oh, the chimneys have to have a cutout for the roof, unless you make the chimney stand out from the house. So I am going to be cutting one of these ends where my chimney is going to fit, and then I will make the roof fit around it after. Again, not this week. Yeah, so, I have my push pins right here. So when I say push pin, I mean these kind. And you can just put some glue on it, wedge it into your piece, and then you can cut the end off to make this part look like a chimney cap. But save the end piece. Don't let it go shooting off across your room or whatever, because these make really good bowls and plates for tabletops, like pub scenes and stuff. So I will be cutting a lot of these off and saving all the little pieces. But again, not tonight. I am way over on my time, and my partner is going to tell me that when I get off this. She's going to be like, you should have been done faster. So, yeah. I heard somebody refer to the junk drawer as the tetanus drawer the other day. I was like, I can see that. Mine is typically not metal objects. It's usually strings. And I mean, heck, I have an entire drawer of wire bread ties and the plastic bread ties. So yeah, I can't ever complain about anybody else's hoarding / collecting. I do it. All right. Have I ever made a curved steamed cedar roof for your TTRPG houses? I have not, but I do have an electric tea kettle. So I could generate the steam and make it actually like that. Or I could get a thin enough wood like this and to make it, glue it into place and make it appear like it was steamed wood. Oops, that one broke, but you get the idea. And I will have to look up exactly what you're talking about. If you go to my Discord and send me a picture, Lisa, I will take a look at what you're talking about. But I am not familiar with a steamed curved cedar roof. So I will take a look at that and see if I can come up with something like that. I usually do fake shingles. Like this is a solid piece of foam where I've cut shingles into it by hand with a pencil tip. And I usually do those, or thatch, or straws, or corrugated cardboard as terracotta tiles, things like that. I have not worked with wooden roofs very often. I do have one house. You can see it in the thing I did on Carl's channel last week. You can see one of them that's got the looks like it's lapped wood, and it's literally just ice cream sticks that are laid in layers. And you can do that downwise so that it looks like the water runs down through it, or you do it crosswise so it looks like it's supposed to have shingles and they've come off. Or if you're really fiddly, you can actually lap them over each other so they look like a lapped wood roof, but I've never done that. I've thought about it many times, but I've never actually done it. So anyway, that's it. So, you said your girlfriend and daughter would understand it, but not many others would. What, the collecting, the junk drawer? Yeah, I get you. All right, so that's it. This is Campaign Terrain. these are my live streams. I recently had some stuff get wrapped up in my house, so that's a good thing. So I'll start putting out not live videos very soon, now that I've gotten like 3 huge stacks of stuff back where they go, now that I can do that. Yeah, so next week I'm going to be doing stonework at the bottom and possibly the, God, this one shutter. Stonework at the bottom and possibly this chimney. I'll probably do the roof the week after that. In the meantime, I'm going to take a bunch of these, trim them out, and put them onto the strips of leading, so I'll have a bunch of windows ready for future stuff. I keep saying that's because I'm thinking about if I miss anything. So big, huge shout to my patrons. If anybody wants to be a patron, links in the down below. I do a lot of hanging out on Discords, so if you want to go to my Discord, again, down below. And that's it. This is Campaign Train. I'm your host, That Guy Cross. This is my basement. You're welcome to come back anytime. And if you game, build, or just are here for the fun ride, I love you. And until next time, I wish you luck in your campaign, whether on the table or in real life. Y'all have a great night. And I hope this has not been too boring, and I'll see you next week.